Hi, Christina. Sorry for the confusion. I did find your essays, so I'm just going to get through it. Sometimes when there's so many replies in one email thread, it's kind of difficult to locate the documents, but I found it, so here we are. Okay. Industrialization has been rising for many decades already. Therefore, people have been moving to cities to earn better living, and the trend on urbanization has been huge. Nowadays, in many countries, the government has taken action to move companies out of towns. There are many pros and cons that should be considered while implementing this strategy. Okay, I like your thesis sentence. That's good. The rest of it was a little awkward. Let me show you what I mean. So we don't really say industrialization has been rising. These don't collocate, which means that they don't really go together. Um, so I think you could have maybe used a different word. Industrialization has been increasing. Maybe industrialization has become more prevalent. Okay. In recent decades. So this kind of language would have been good here. Okay. All right. Therefore, people have been moving to cities to earn a better living, and the trend of urbanization, again, this is weird too, has been huge. The trend of urbanization has been huge. It's just really awkward. It doesn't sound like natural English. I mean, the words are fine and the grammar is not wrong. It just doesn't sound like natural English. And so that's where we have to change it a bit. So let's do it a little differently. Therefore, people have been moving to cities to earn a better living, resulting in greater urbanization. Okay? You could have said something like that. Nowadays, in many countries, the government has taken actions to move companies out of towns. All right. Now, then this, what happens here? It's like, okay, well, how did you go from this urbanization to the government wanting to do this? So that felt like you kind of jumped over a sentence. Does that make sense? So let's try it a little differently. I'm going to suggest you a couple of changes here. I would have gotten rid of this first sentence. It really doesn't help you. So get rid of it and say something different. With increased urbanization, yeah, you could say that. Or how about with increased industrialization in our urban areas over the past decades, people have been moving more and more to the cities to earn a better living. Full stop. However, this trend has created problems. The government is now taking action to move companies out of towns to counteract these problems. There are many pros and cons that should be considered while implementing the strategy. So, do you see what I've done? I really made sure that one sentence logically links to the next. They create a chain. And I felt like with your sentences that chain was broken. Okay? So those are my suggestions about your introduction in order to make it more cohesive and to make it a little more logical. All right, let's see. To think about the positive effects that come with companies moving away from cities, I think that there are two most important aspects, financial and pollution. The former includes benefits for the company and for the employees. The land is cheaper in the, here you need a the, countryside, and as a result of this, companies can have more spacious rooms. What? And there is plenty of room for car parking. Also, salaries for the employees can be higher. The latter positive aspect, reduction of pollution. You didn't tell me why salaries can be higher. Why? Why would that happen? Moving into the country. The latter positive aspect, reduction of pollution in big towns, is highly important as well. Cities are warmer than ever due to global warming. There is a notable change in climate, and the air in the cities is becoming toxic. If companies moved outside the city, it would result in reduction of pollution in cities. All right, careful with this. If the cities. So no, you have to use some cohesion here. There are a lot of different ways to use it, but look, I mean, there's even one more here. cities, cities, and then city, cities. So too much. So let me do these two sentences showing you how you can do it with a variety of cohesive devices. Cities are warmer than ever due to global warming. There is a noticeable change in climate, and um, the air in metropolises is becoming toxic, and urban air is becoming toxic. So this is lexical cohesion where I'm using a synonym to basically say the same idea, but with different words. Okay? If companies moved to regional locations, it would result in a reduction of urban pollution, or in a reduction of pollution in cities. Now, since you only had cities here, it's okay to have cities down here. But when you have in such a short span the word cities 4 times, it's too much. So you have to find another way to make it a little more cohesive. Okay, so yeah, metropolis, metropolitan areas, urban areas, all these are things you could have used instead of the word cities. And also, you have to know that not only does this affect cohesion, but it could potentially also affect your vocabulary. The examiner is going to say, come on, you don't have any other language to use instead of the word cities. So it may seem that your language is kind of limited. All right. And you don't want the examiner to think that. You have to show that you have some flexibility in your vocabulary and that you can come up with some alternatives to the word cities. All right, let's keep going. The negative aspect to be considered is convenience for both for the staff and for the clients. If employees do not work in the city, then they need to have transportation to the workplace and back. This results in either creating a new public transport solution or an additional obligation for what? Do you mean an additional obligation for the employee to provide transportation? People with little children would lose the chance, not the change, the chance to pick up their kids with minimum time cost, which can be frustrating when it is the period of illnesses. Negative aspect for the negative aspects for the clients. Get rid of this comma. Wanting to visit the company, no comma, is that they need to save more time to visit the company. Okay, I'm not a huge fan of this paragraph for a variety of reasons. It kind of felt like a list to me. It felt like it could have been very well like a bulleted list. All right, let me show you what I mean. You talked about convenience, okay? And then you said if they don't work in the city, they need to have transportation to the workplace and back. Uh, and then this idea of a new transport solution, I didn't love it. Let's see. They need to have transportation to the workplace and back. This may create additional expense for the employee in terms of transportation and time, or rather, additional expense in terms of transportation costs and time. Okay, so you could have said that. And then I didn't really understand this. People with little children would lose a chance to pick them up. I don't know why you're assuming this, and this just seemed like it really didn't belong. Okay. I mean, you talk about the period of illnesses. Yeah, but even if you work in the city and your kid is sick, you still have a problem. So I didn't really understand the whole logic behind this. And then you really should have spent more time developing this idea. Negative aspect for the clients wanting to visit the company, et cetera, et cetera. Now the grammar of this is awkward, okay? But the idea is correct. You needed to develop it more and you need to make it grammatically more accurate. So let me show you what I mean. The company may also suffer being further away from the city because the distance can create a problem for both suppliers and customers. Okay, so being further away from suppliers adds time and money to the company's costs, okay, making any potential savings, um, kind of offset, okay? And then, um, additionally, it's difficult for the customers to reach the company because of the distance and the time required. This may result in loss of customers. Okay, so again, just a little more exploration of these ideas. You just had this one idea in one little sentence, and I thought you developed stuff you really didn't need to. All right, so let's continue. In conclusion, I think the company should move outside the city if this is possible. Then we can have cleaner air in towns instead of companies. There would be more space for parks and playgrounds. All right, this should have been some sort of semicolon here. Or maybe even and there would be more space. There would be space for parks and playgrounds. Okay, yeah, that's fine. So, I mean, it's a nice essay, but it needed some work. Okay, it needed work in task achievement primarily. Definitely in cohesion. We talked about that quite a bit with this use of the word cities over and over. I think you could have done there. So for me, in order of importance, it would have been task achievement, coherence and cohesion, and then grammar. Okay, so that's what I want to point out about your task 2. Let's look at your task 1. You've got the flow chart here. All right. The block scheme, well, we don't call it a block scheme, we call it a flow chart. So the flow chart illustrates no, we don't say this. The flow chart illustrates the steps needed to make 5 different T-types. Or the flow chart illustrates how 5 different T-types are produced. All right, then you name them, that's fine. Overall, there are 3 to 6 steps in production of these T-types. Fine. Well, you could have also told me how they started and how they stopped, how they ended. So you could have said which begin with sorting the leaves and then with drying and end with drying. Okay? So just add that little piece of information there. The process is different for each tea type. For green oolong and black tea, there are three steps in common. Get rid of R. Sorting and cleaning, withering and drying. Only black and oolong tea need either a short fermentation or full fermentation, full stop. The rest of the tea types that are presented do not need fermentation at all. Interestingly, scented tea is made from the end product of black, green, or oolong. The process for scented tea includes drying, scenting with flowers of fruits, and cooling. The production of white tea has only 3 steps altogether: sorting and cleaning, steaming and drying. To produce green tea, there are 4 steps in total, followed by black tea. Okay. Producing oolong tea has the most steps, 6 steps. In conclusion, production of various types of tea has different steps. Activities needed to perform vary among the total number and content. Okay. This was an interesting way to do this. I didn't really follow the logic behind the way you decided to organize your ideas. So, I mean, I definitely have in my mind a way that I think is best. All right. I'm going to tell you it really, really briefly. I like what you did in terms of finding the commonalities, but I think you missed a few things. Okay. So you may remember that the one thing I suggested in your overview was to talk about they all start with sorting and cleaning and they all end with drying. Okay. That is for these 4. Okay. So you may remember that. And that's how I would start my description. I would say, the 4 tea types, white, green, oolong, and black tea, all start with sorting and cleaning and all end with some type of drying. White tea is the only one that has one intermediate step, which is steaming, making it the simplest tea to produce. Okay? And then you're done. The other 3 tea types have a common next step, which is withering. From this point on, their production differs significantly. Okay? And then you could say that green tea is pan fried, steamed, or fired, and then it is rolled and shaped before drying. Um, Oolong and black tea may also be rolled as their next step. However, oolong may be shaken to bruise the leaf edges, and black may be rolled into strips or cut. Okay? Then, both oolong and black tea have a fermentation process. This is full fermentation for black tea, while for oolong tea, it is only short. Okay? Both oolong and black tea, no, not both. They take that back. Black tea, as its final step, is fired in order to dry, and oolong is pan fried before drying. Done. And then you can talk about this. So that's how I would do it. Okay, more or less. I mean, maybe if I actually wrote it down, I would tweak it. I would make it a little more, I don't know, I'll give it a little more finesse. But in an oral kind of way, this is how I would organize it. You could see that I found the commonalities and I kind of jumped back and forth. Maybe I would try to avoid that so much, but that's how I would do it. Okay. All right. Yeah. So for me, at least, it's a logical way. And then I would say that of the four tea types, only white is not used to make scented tea. The three other tea types are dry. They are scented with flowers or fruits, and then cooled. Okay, that's it. I mean, very simple. All right. So there was one other essay here. I don't know if you sent it, or maybe you were hoping I would send it. It's the bonus essay that you'll find in the essays I sent you today. So take a look. It's your bonus essay, so you can write it if you'd like. I'll be here to correct it. So yeah, I'll wait for it. Okay. I know you said your exam is coming up, so let's see if we can get you to do that. And if not, and this is the end of your road, then I want to wish you tons of luck. Do let us know what happens. Okay. Good luck.